these glass ceilings need to be gotten rid of on all of these cabinet posts. So there's no doubt that we're going to see a lot of that stuff shattered. But I think it is also going to be about finding that balance and being responsive to the electorate as well.
I do think that there is going to be a significant focus on, Chuck, I think you were suggesting that the diversity of Joe Biden's cabinet. I think that is one thing that Democrats on Capitol Hill, but also across the country, they're looking to see themselves represented. Joe Biden has a woman defense secretary, Michelle before.
And possibly
She worked in the Pentagon and the Obama
possibly the first woman Treasury Secretary.
Always a pleasure to see you, sir.
Defense Secretary, sort of these last sort of, for some reason, relics, if you will, and just that stuff. And by the way,
Elizabeth, what are you doing here?
I've been formally asked to witness your triumph, my dear. After all, isn't it the natural role of a woman to support her man in victory?
But it's you who insisted I join the Ascalon.
Please forgive my giddiness. I'm just overcome by the thrill of finally being allowed within these hallowed halls.
You certainly have an inquisitive mind. It's quite something. Elizabeth Ashbury, only you can make me smile in these difficult times.
And the same to you, Jonathan Reed. Now go have your little chat with the chairman. I can see he's practically bursting to hear your report. We'll talk later.
I must admit the Guard of Pre-Wen impressed me. They must have spent years preparing that plan.
Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has reached out to Joe Biden, the President-elect. What else are you hearing? Let me read you what we're hearing from Justin Trudeau, and then let's talk about the broader context of how the world is reacting. Savannah, Justin Trudeau writes, congratulations, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are two countries, are close friends, partners, and allies. We share a relationship that's unique on the world stage. I'm really looking forward to working together and building on that with both of you. Look, President Trump was someone who ran on an America First foreign policy, and that is how he governed. And so, America's traditional relationships with its foreign allies have been strained throughout the Trump administration, something that he would acknowledge and felt quite proud of. Frankly, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. These are things that Joe Biden has said.
Rumors say 2 cases of infection have been reported in Buckingham Palace. Good thing the king is not there.
And think about NATO. President Trump had a number of NATO summits which were quite tense at times. You recall that one moment where you had several world leaders who were talking about the president behind his back, mocking him. That was caught on camera. And that was something that, from the perspective of President Trump, he saw as a badge of honor. He would argue, look, he forced those NATO member countries to meet their commitments when it comes to foreign defense spending. But on the other hand, his critics
I think we're safe for now. I pursued and killed the last hunter with my own hands as he tried to escape the club.
for America's strength on the world stage, and at the same time embracing some of America's
Welcome back to the Ascalon Club, Lance Bearer. Please, tell us the good news. Have you put an end to the epidemic?
My hypothesis was correct. Doris Fletcher was the source of the contagion in this part of town. She was probably the first to be infected.
And you cleansed her before the hunters, I've been told. Well done, Dr. Reed. You thrust your lance and pierced the very heart of the corruption.
with America on the world stage that we have seen in the past 4 years. We have to
I did my best.
The important thing is, we won a major battle for the survival of London. For that, we salute you.
Thank you, my lord.
Now, I have another task for you. One of the utmost importance. Perhaps even more so than the previous.
I'm listening.
It's time for you to perform a most sacred duty for the club. I want you to recruit a new vampire.
Recruit a new vampire? Are you sending me on some sort of diplomatic mission?
Not exactly. I want you to make Aloysius Dawson the Econ he deserves to be.
I'm not sure I'm the best candidate for such a task.
I can hear the hesitation in your voice, Dr. Reed. I admire a man of principles. But in this matter, there is more at stake than your moral comfort.
It's not a moral question, Lord Redgrave. It's the responsibility of giving immortality to a man I barely know.
Nonsense. Aloysius has been a member of the Ascalon for years. This is but the fruition of a long-held plan.
How would you like me to proceed?
Aloysius is waiting for you at the Dawson estate. Once the deed is done, I'll join you there to celebrate this momentous occasion.
Before I go, I have a few questions.
All right, I'm listening.
Why Aloysius Dawson?
Because he is about to die, and he just may be the most influential man in England. After me, of course.
Did he choose me?
No, I did. My decision is very recent, to say the least, but it is entirely mine.
Does he know I'm coming?
He can't wait to become your progeny, Dr. Reed. Especially now that you have shown how strong your lineage is through your sister.
How would you like me to proceed?
Don't worry. Aloysius has had many years to prepare himself. He has studied our kind for decades.
So shall I just let him drink my blood?
Yes. Aloysius will gratefully sup on your blood. His heart will slow, then stop. But he will rise again as one of us, an immortal.
Is there any danger?
Our blood alters a mortal body so deeply that some don't survive the metamorphosis. They die for good. But Mr. Dawson has been preparing himself for a long time.
You invited Lady Ashbury. Wouldn't that be breaking one of your cardinal rules? No women allowed.
Not allowed as members, no. But considering the circumstances, I thought you'd like to have her here to witness your triumph.
So it's a temporary admittance.
Something of a bargain, considering the crisis we're currently facing.
Goodbye, Lord Redgrave.
Understandably, you have questions.
Goodbye, Lord Redgrave.
Are you all right, Jonathan?
Lord Redgrave has just ordered me to turn Aloysius Dawson, to make him my progeny.
I see. And how do you feel about this?
I'd like your advice on the matter.
The real question here is, why has his lordship given you this task?
Do you think it's some sort of trap?
Do you really want to know what I think about this?
I do, yes.
To make an immortal of a soulless blackguard like Aloysius Dawson will only lead to a disaster for London. The man is already dead inside.
Should I refuse? Perhaps politely suggest that Lord Redgrave turn the man into a vampire himself.
Don't you dare, my dear. According to what I've recently discovered, his lordship could kill you for even broaching the subject.
Really? Why?
I've recently found proof that the Earl of Bristol is of lesser lineage and only capable of creating scars.
Please tell me more about your recent investigation.
As long as you lower your voice.
What would you have me do about Dawson?
The man is dangerous. Did you know he plans to build a wall to separate the healthy rich from the sickly poor? Do not make him your progeny.
What would you do?
The man's dying already. Let the reaper harvest the rotten fruit that is his soul.
Are you sure your information about Redgrave is correct? He says he's the progeny of the great knight William Marshall, who lived some 9 centuries ago.
That's a lie. Lord Redgrave is unable to create anything but skulls, if the poor souls survive at all.
How can you be sure the information is correct?
I made the acquaintance of a most interesting informer while investigating your maker, from whom I learned the truth about Lord Redgrave.
Why so vindictive? You suddenly sound like you're angry.
Forgive me, Jonathan. I hate myself for it, but I feel such pride in my discovery. I'm afraid I just can't help it.
Which is?
He did serve William Marshall. And yes, the blood he covets as a token does truly belong to that legendary knight. But he was never his progeny. His lineage is not so noble.
What would happen if I made Dawson an Ekon like myself?
You would add a powerful immortal into a suffering world. An immortal who already craves authority.
Maybe I could teach him control, like you taught me. Lead him down the right path.
Mr. Dawson spent his life searching for a way to cheat death. I'm sure he has spent decades dreaming of how he'd spend eternity as a tyrant.
Goodbye for now, Elizabeth.
Goodbye, my dear. Please, be careful.
With no less than the control of the United States Senate at issue down in Georgia, right? And, you know, we shorthand it as control of the Senate, but here's what it really means. It's the difference between Joe Biden having a mandate for calm and normalcy, which it's very clear he already has, and perhaps return to the status quo, and him being able to implement sweeping, big policy changes. And also, it's going to have a huge impact on how he is able to govern, whether the cabinet that he is the one that he wants. Because if Mitch McConnell is still controlling the Senate, remember, they have gotten rid of, over in recent years, the filibuster. Now, what does that mean? It means they only need 51 votes for this, and so Republicans would be able to block, with their majority, Joe Biden's cabinet nominees, any future Supreme Court nominees. So what Democrats are looking for here is they're looking to see, is Mitch McConnell going to blockade all of that? Because Joe Biden's first 2 years as president look very, very different if Republicans control the Senate than they do if Democrats are going to be able to pull out these 2 races in Georgia. So we are all going to be focused on that for the next couple of months. And Republicans, you can already see them, Chuck, to your point, they're saying if this is a radical administration, we got to put a check on this radical left. That also, I think, is going to be something that the Biden team is thinking about. They're not going to want to give any indications. They're going to want to protect themselves from that activity.
It looks like vampires have to obey Mendel's laws when producing progeny. Powers pass from one generation to another. That's why Dawson wants me to sire him. Good evening, Miss Teasdale.
Can I help you, Dr. Reed?
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
Never heard of him.
Really? He's very well known in London, throughout the country even.
He a big shot or something? Never interested in politics myself. All words and no action.
Goodbye, Miss Teasdale. And be careful. Until we meet again. Good evening, old chap.
I won't.
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
Well, I've discovered he's quite versed in occult knowledge. So I wrote him a letter asking him to finance my research about vampires. He never responded.
You need some rest.
Good evening.
Do you know anything about a man called Aloysius Dawson?
He used to be a big spender. One day, he sent 3 houseboys to buy all the beluga in my shop. For his brother's birthday, if I remember correctly.
I see. Anything else? Less gastronomic, perhaps?
I really can't say. The man is filthy rich. But you know that, of course.
Now have.
I may have a look at your...
And it's both the character of the president and the character of all of us. And in many ways, the presidency is a tension between being a maker of our character and a mirror of it. And what I think a lot of us are hoping today is that Biden's victory is a mirror of at least a 51% win for, like you call our better angels versus our worst instincts. And that's what history is. It's pushing. And I think that in many ways, for a lot of the reasons that you all are talking about.
Good evening, Jessica.
And good evening.
Be a perfect man for this moment. Because
What do you know about Aloysius Dawson?
That man is a tyrant. The embodiment of greed and selfishness. All I despise about this country.
it's not going to be.
Goodbye, Charlotte.
She's been quite busy.
And I know we're going to be divided. I know the partisanship is going to be sulfurous, but it can't be as sulfurous as it has been. And I believe ultimately, Benjamin Franklin left the Constitutional Convention.
Yes, Mr. Jonathan?
Important woman said.
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
Not much, sir. Mr. Dawson's house used to be a good house, with many servants. I heard he fired them all recently.
I'm just thinking about Twitter. We've had for 4 years a president that communicates primarily through Twitter. How will it be?
Goodbye.
Of course.
Not that way. I'm just saying.
Fiery Secretary of State or Defense on Twitter. Let me ask you, John, because you not only are a historian, but I know you're a man of deep faith. This is a moment where a nation needs healing. And how do you think Joe Biden sets about that?
Hello again, Mother. Goodbye, Mother.
Goodbye, son.
The Bible says to everything there's a season, a time to reap, a time to sow, a time to tear down, a time to build, and a time to heal. And healing is not something that just comes out of the blue, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to heal. And I think this is why Biden's character is particularly apropos here and fitting, because healing begins with a recognition of the other person's position, of why the wounds are here. What is it that's been off in our national life, in our place in the global world, in our hopes for the future, our fears and anxieties about it? And Biden gets that, right? This is not a blue state president. I know it feels that way sometimes, but this is a guy from Scranton. He loves labor unions. It means a lot to him that the folks he grew up with still get him, and he wants to get them. And so I think if we can get to more of a conversation than a constant machinery of conflict, I think that's where some healing can begin.
That work begins today.
Thank you. Again, NBC News projects that Joe Biden is now President-elect of the United States. Kamala Harris is Vice President-elect as they pass the 270 electoral vote threshold.
This has been a moment of democracy in action. More people have voted this year than in a generation, even during a pandemic, even at a moment of great division in this country. Democracy is still with us, and we are watching its fruits as we speak. We will come back on the air as events warrant. For now, for everyone here at NBC News, thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing this moment with us, and we will see you soon.
Dr. Reed, still conducting your nocturnal survey?
Democracy is working. Once again,
What are you investigating?
Well,
I was lucky enough to find them both while conducting my investigation in this part of town.
why do I still have the feeling that you're hiding something? What about the abductor? Was it the same person?
I don't think so. You had better interview Miss Teasdale and Mr. Kimura on the matter. All I did was to lead them safely home. What are you investigating, exactly?
Well, my 2 missing persons cases have been solved. By you, it seems. Are you just that lucky? Or do you know something I don't?
I was lucky enough to find them both while conducting my investigation in this part of town.
Why do I still have the feeling that you're hiding something? What about the abductor? Was it the same person?
I don't think so. You had better interview Miss Teasdale and Mr. Kimura on that matter. All I did was to lead them safely home. Do you know anything in particular about a man called Aloysius Dawson?
Who doesn't know the man? I think he intervened personally to put an end to the police strike of last August.
What else can you tell me about him?
Aloysius Dawson is exactly the kind of powerful and influential man who could commit murder and get away with it, with just one phone call.
Goodbye, Detective Inspector Albright.
Goodbye, Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Dr. Reed, I am glad to see you again.
Good evening, young...
My mother always prefers when people...
Have you ever met the famous Aloysius Dawson?
Yes. A very strange man. Not very nice.
What do you mean?
He said he was ready to pay good money for rare books, and then laughed at what we showed him.
Goodbye, Carol.
Good morning.
Good evening, Miss Price.
You know you can call me Carolyn, my dear doctor.
Do you know Aloysius Dawson?
Everybody knows him. He's only been to my shop once, though, looking for rare books and other intriguing antiques.
Did he buy something from you?
No, he left quickly. He almost laughed at my goods. Mr. Dawson may be a rich man, but you can't buy good manners.
But isn't Aloysius Dawson known for his philanthropy?
That was before his brother Robert died in an aeroplane crash. Since then, the remaining twin has turned into a heartless tycoon.
May I look at your goods, Miss Price?
It's always a pleasure to... I hope you can stay a little longer this time.
Is a real interesting one, not necessarily the path that anyone thought would have unfolded, but here we are.
Look, we got just enough votes in order to call Pennsylvania, even if it may slip into a recount. We think there's just mathematically nearly impossible for the order of finish to change in Pennsylvania. And when you look at it in many ways, Joe Biden won with a somewhat traditional map in the Midwest. He rebuilt the blue wall, and narrowly, but he did it. He added 2 sort of expansion states that looks like potentially, when all said and done, with Arizona and Georgia, but in fact is he did it without it, and it proved that 4 years ago, the biggest and less infamous election is that 2016 was not an outlier. This is essentially the 2016 election. Going to Joe Biden.
Women's right to vote is only...
Thinking of the 32-year quest for the presidency of this man, his resilience in the face of failed attempts in the past, a very slow start, stumbling out of the gate.
I need to find information about Aloysius Dawson. What can you tell me about him?
Don't trust him. He's looking for the same thing I was. Rats? No, not rats. Something else. I don't remember.
I must...
Which I think was the biggest story of this closing part of the campaign, his response to the pandemic and to the racial inequality protests after George Floyd really spelled that appeal to suburban women and others, broadening that appeal that
Hello, Venus.
Hello, Jonathan.
and that spelled victory in a
Always
sharp
welcome
contrast with appealing for unity, for calm,
What do you know?
as in the last 48 hours.
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
I never met the man. I know Clarence tried to contact him recently, but I don't know why.
To see what Republicans do here, and they have a real challenge in trying to
Goodbye.
manage a president who has been ruled, it seems,
At
by
least he survived the Great War.
into the chaos.
I
So
see.
I would expect some Republicans to focus on letting what Chuck mentioned. There's still going to be a process that plays out in the states. Obviously, Republicans have talked about legal challenges. I'm going to watch to see how long and how far Republicans are going to be willing to go.
They're all around you, waiting for you to let the guard down.
Americans voting for him here, but I'm not sure that there's going to be sustained support for that. And
Good evening, Mr. Kamara.
Good evening, Doctor.
Do you know anything about a man called Aloysius Dawson, by any chance?
Well, I've never met the man personally, but I invested money in some of his companies when I came to London. A brilliant businessman.
the events in Charlottesville and the president's
Goodbye, Miss.
to be very clear on matters of race are what got him into this in the beginning, that he was something of a reluctant candidate, that his son Beau should have been the one who was running here.
take some serious
trying, as Andrea said, to find his way into this office for decades.
Good evening.
I won't.
The relationships that he did build.
What can you tell me?
Well, I've discovered he...
You...
Why can't I forgive you, Father?
That's the message that was sent. The nation's why he ran. And you know what? That is why.
And in those closing days, Joe Biden would often say, this is a fight for the soul of the nation. And the nation has spoken. If you're just tuning in, NBC News projects that Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States. Let's go to Kristen Walker. She's at Biden headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware. Kristen, good morning. Savannah and Lester, good morning to both of you on this historic day. The Biden campaign has been elated since yesterday when Joe Biden pulled ahead in Pennsylvania, and now there is cause for real celebration. We are out to the campaign for reaction, none yet, but I can tell you that they have been planning for the vice president to address the nation. They have been confident that this was the news that is coming, and so what will his message be? It speaks to some of those key points that Andrea and Casey just talked about. Biden knows that his first and biggest challenge is going to be to try to speak to
Sometimes
this
it's
entire
difficult to
nation.
remember why we're here in the first place.
President Trump
Hello
to try
again,
to
Dr. Reed.
unify the country, and so I am
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
You should ask that question to my brother instead. Personally, I've not seen Aloysius for many years.
Good...
who sees himself as a president of the entire nation and not just a few states and people who voted for him. And that's really
Good evening, Mr. Bacon.
Why do...
much of his campaign.
What can you tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
I've heard this is a man who has searched for his place in the world for a long time. I hope he found it.
Goodbye, Mr. Bacon.
It was Pennsylvania, 14 stops in all, more than any other state. Why? Because he knew that this could be the state that could be make or break for him, and so it was, and so it is, and that is why on the final day of this campaign, the place where he was born, he visited Philadelphia to encourage African American voters to turn out in force. They didn't in big enough numbers in 2016, and so we reaction from the Biden campaign on what is undoubtedly a day of celebration.
Good evening, Jonathan Reed. Can I help you in any way?
Is there anything you could tell me about Aloysius Dawson?
Aloysius Dawson. Yes, of course. We met on several occasions. With time, he got deeper and deeper into the occult.
He's not the only one. It's been quite the fashion for several decades. The Golden Dawn, for instance, is just one example.
True. Aloysius was a member of the Golden Dawn until 1900. Then his thirst for dark knowledge grew. I'm talking forbidden texts, readings which blackened his heart.
Vice President and the first person of color, the first woman of color, as Kristen was just saying, it is overwhelming in a way to think of the barriers that have been broken. Not only the glass
Goodbye, sir.
I rarely wonder which London will survive the epidemic that I see.
Vice presidency, having watched Walter Mondale, the first vice president who was really consequential in his partnership with Jimmy Carter, it depends on whether Joe Biden lives up to his promise to have that partnership with Kamala Harris that he enjoyed with Barack Obama. There were, of course, tensions with Obama and Biden and policy disagreements.
Terrible trials awaiting in the future.
Biden's granddaughter and, of course, the president's daughter who were basketball teammates. They were kind of made friends. And then parent-teacher conferences that they did together. And also the death of Bo Biden when President Obama reached out to the vice president in order to gain his order so he could lose his house, pay the medical bills, all of that. That really is part of the character of Joe Biden. And I think that for any tensions that might have existed during that first debate, any presidential ambitions that she clearly has as with such the oldest elected president, she is obviously the front runner for any future, Democratic leader. And that's going to be, and they're both politicians, they're both ambitious. We're not allowed to talk about the next election. Let me just say that the point I'm trying to make is that they are going to be full partners, I believe, in this.
Well, they have to be. I mean, I would just say that if they're not, they're going to have some governing challenges. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Joe Biden's going to be taking office in a moment of history where we're as a country, are extraordinarily divided, and we're sort of hurt, pain, whatever metaphor. We need to heal the nation, both figuratively and literally with COVID. But I would guess that the closest corollary we have is probably 76. Jimmy Carter comes in. We were an extraordinarily divided nation. And Joe Biden is almost this combination of Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford. He's got the political acumen of a Jerry Ford who understood Washington, the empathy and honesty and charity and character of a Jimmy Carter. And so what Joe Biden, and I think this is what will be interesting to watch, this partnership. On one hand, Biden comes in, he's here to be a healer, and he's also the inside guy. Kamala Harris is a partner. She's there to sort of keep the progressives and sort of, the outside activists also, in a governing partnership. It's going to be interesting. If it's effective, that's what it'll look like. If it's ineffective, then
She's also a bridge to a new generation, I think, inside the Republican Party. You think of the arc of history that Joe Biden has seen in his political career, but we are, in fact, moving potentially forward, and he needs someone to help him do that. Well, let's find out what the Trump White House is saying this morning. We've got Hallie Jackson on duty. I was just glancing at the popular vote. Yes, NBC News has projected that Joe Biden has won the election, with 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump, 74 million approximately.
Dawson's mansion.
Where is the White House on this?
Here I am at last.
And where is the president right
But the
now?
question remains,
Physically, Savannah, he is
am
not
I
the
ready
White
to
House
make a
President
dying
Trump right
man
now,
my progeny?
as his race is being called by NBC News is at his golf course in Virginia. This is not the view of Trumpism that some of the president's critics had hoped, but it is a defeat for the president, and it is one that hours. Aides, advisors, and other sources that I've talked to have come to a realization about. I believe you're looking at some video of the president in the motorcade on the way to that golf course earlier today. The president, even as recently as within the last hour, has been defiant about this election's results, tweeting that he won this
Reduced in rank for falsely accusing a man of murder. I wonder what Inspector Albright thinks about his punishment. It's locked, all right. It's locked.
Finally you're here, Dr. Reed. What took you so long?
I had to pass several of your barricades and outposts to access your mansion, sir.
Death, pestilence surround us, and time is against me.
I see you've gathered some of the most expensive, albeit experimental, blood transfusion equipment available. All this could be so useful in a hospital.
Yes, yes. Since Lord Redgrave sent me a doctor to perform my conversion, I thought you might find some of these devices useful.
Most thoughtful. But tonight I'm not here as a physician.
But I feel reassured that a specialist such as yourself would help me to escape the Reaper.
Very well. But before I proceed, I have a few questions for you.
If you must, but be quick, for I don't have much time left in this life.
First of all, I need to be sure that you know exactly what is going to happen to you, sir.
I can assure you I'm as informed as any man can be. I have planned for this moment, Dr. Reed. Planned very carefully.
I'm the only vampire in the room for now, so please indulge me.
All right. What is it you wish to ask?
I will become your maker. Do you understand what that means?
Well, I certainly won't consider you my liege, or some such drivel. You can be assured of that.
I will become your maker. Do you understand what that means?
Well, I certainly won't consider you my liege, or some such drivel. You can be assured of that.
You'll need to feed on warm blood. Blood from mortals. How do you feel about that?
I'm rich, Dr. Reed, and powerful. I'm sure I'll be able to acquire all the blood I need without ever having to sully my own hands.
What do you know about the Guard of Priwen?
What I do know is that I'll crush anyone or anything that would dare to oppose me.
Let's move on, then.
Please, I'm cold and tired. I feel my life waning with every moment.
But first, before you embrace immortality, what would you do with such a gift?
That's a rather impertinent question, Dr. Reed. And I will do as I please.
Answer me all the same. What will your first action be as an immortal?
To save London. I will finance the most efficient quarantine ever seen. I will build a wall that will separate the sick boroughs from the healthy ones.
Who gave you the right to decide the fate of thousands of people?
My money. My money and my pending immortality gives me the needed authority, Doctor. I'm a businessman, I'm used to tough decisions.
You really plan to build a quarantine wall across London?
Yes, it will be tall and strong, separating the wheat from the chaff.
By doing so, you will also create 2 separate prisons.
Come, sir. An eminent doctor like yourself knows that such radical measures have proved efficient in the past.
Let me guess. You mean to isolate the rich from the poor?
This is a desperate measure for desperate times. England must prevail, Doctor, no matter the cost.
Quarantine is not a bad idea, medically speaking. But I'm convinced this epidemic will not be contained by mere walls.
As long as the right people are on the right side of the wall, that's all that matters.
But you can't guarantee infection will not spread. Just one contagious carrier would be enough to create an apocalypse.
The apocalypse is already knocking at the gate. We must be strong now.
What if a new outbreak happens inside your walls? You'll have created a giant trap.
That won't happen. As long as we dispose of anyone that is contaminated as soon as they are spotted.
I've heard enough. It's time to proceed.
At last. All right, do what you have to do. If it hurts, so be it. I've been preparing such a long time for this.
Are you ready for immortality, Mr. Dawson? Drink now, and say farewell to life as you prepare to be reborn.
What do you mean, drink? What about the blood transfusion?
I'm the doctor and the vampire here, so I'll give the orders. Drink, sir. Now.
All right.
Good. That's enough. That's enough, I said.
I will not die. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, no. You will die, sir. Steel yourself. You're already in death.
Such an interesting moment for these institutions to really thrive in this generation with Kamala Harris as sort of this North Star.
And there's been a lot of fear in the Black community over the last 4 years, and this, I think, provides some hope for Kamala Harris's role. Let's go to Kristen Welker, who, of course, is at Biden headquarters this morning. Kristen, we should get you in on this conversation. The question of what kind of governing
It's locked, all right.
Biden will feel he has, made the observation that at the moment the election stands for Joe Biden being elected president and Republicans gaining seats in the House and the Senate in suspended
It's locked, all right.
will it end up being controlled by Republicans or Democrats? How does that dynamic affect what Joe Biden wants to do and who he chooses for his cabinet, for his Secretary of State, for his Secretary of Defense, and so on? Well, he certainly isn't
It's locked.
choose people who will be flashpoints, given what our understanding of the makeup of Congress and the Senate will be. Savannah, you're absolutely right about that. When you think about his agenda, though, let's tick through some of the key things that he wants to accomplish. He's talked about criminal justice reform, addressing
Is it done, Dr. Reed? Is Aloysius Dawson reborn as expected?
Yes, my lord. Ascalon has a new recruit, as you ordered.
Wonderful news. I've waited for this outcome for so long. Tonight you served your country, the king himself, beyond all expectation.
Thank you, my lord.
No, thank you, Dr. Reed. Now, could you do me one last favor?
Of course. What is it?
Go outside and talk with that disgusting creature I saw waiting for you in front of his mansion.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll have a look.
Good. I didn't kill her on the spot, for she claims to be a friend of yours. Don't you dare bring such a creature near me again.
It's going to be very hard to get them on board. And then, of course, what we've been seeing in recent weeks on Capitol Hill, the fact that
Thank you, Lance-Bearer. I shall take care of our new member when he awakes. For now, please get rid of that monstrosity at the door. Thank you, Lance-Bearer. I shall take care of our new member when he awakes.
Senator Harris had a briefing on the economy and on COVID earlier this week. He's made the point that while this race was not called, he was going to get to work because he was so confident that ultimately he would be named president-elect. But all of these different agenda items that I lay out are very tough to get through a divided Congress. Sorry, Kristen, let's jump in here because we have breaking news out of the White House. We have heard from the president. Hallie, what do you got?
Well, it's a fairly lengthy statement, Savannah, Chuck, and Lester. It is about 3.5 paragraphs. I won't read the entire thing, but I will read you some highlights, which is that the president...
For now, please get rid of that monstrosity at the door.
...falsely posed as the winner, and that the president is alleging his media allies are trying hard to help him, insisting the election is far from over. This is, frankly, the statement that I think many of the president's critics and even some around him expected him to put out when the race was ultimately called. Is the direction it appeared to be heading in over the last 24 hours or so for Joe Biden. The president is resisting the results of the election, despite the fact that there has been no widespread evidence of fraud. He is insisting that he will continue moving forward with legal challenges in the courts, and he is blaming, as he has often done over the last 4 years that he's been in office, the news media for something that he simply does not like. The president, as we mentioned, is currently on his golf course. As I'm going through the rest of the statement, the president insists he's not going to rest until the American people have what he describes as an honest vote count. Again, this election process has worked exactly as expected. It took a little while. We knew it was going to take a little while. As Chuck knows, we knew it was going to take a while because of all those mail-in ballots, the ballots that in some states have been gone through. There will be recount fights likely. The Trump campaign has already threatened to do a recount in Wisconsin. We know that's where Georgia has been headed. But this is President Trump, true to what we have seen from him since the campaign started for him back in 2015, 2016, defiant even in the face of the reality that this presidential race has slipped out of his fingers. It is out of
We
his
meet
grasp.
again at the strangest of times, young Eccles. So do you serve the Earl of Bristol now?
Old Bridget. What are you doing here?
Your friend, the wise Econ. She sent me to warn you.
Did anyone see you? It's a long way from the dock sewers, and hunters are patrolling the streets here.
Who said I took the streets? How do you think I survived for centuries in this city without ever being seen? I know all her secrets.
How did you meet Lady Ashbury?
She came to us in the sewers in search of answers. Just as you did.
What kind of answers did you give her?
I knew nothing of your maker, but we talked. We talked a lot. Her words and ideas are captivating. It is no surprise that you like her. I like her too.
Lady Ashbury in the sewers? Now that's a sight I wish I'd seen.
She said she was your friend, and that she sought the identity of your maker. So I answered her questions.
Lady Ashbury? You know her? Tell me what's going on.
The lady approached me but a few nights ago, wanting to meet the sewer skulls. Once she questioned Harriet Jones. She agreed to help us.
Harriet Jones is still with you then? How is she doing?
Harriet remains angry, but is recovering slowly. Her mind is twisted, but at least her body is healing.
Tell me what is going on.
The lady asked us to keep an eye on your mortal doctor friend while you were away. We spotted the hunters. They were discussing plans to attack tonight.
Wait, slow down. I need to ask you something.
I'm listening. but I do not have time to waste, so be quick.
Where is Lady Ashbury right now?
She said she will go home. She needed to speak with some old friends first, though. Do not worry, young Ekon. She is no fool, and just as strong as you.
How did Elizabeth find you?
She presented herself humbly at our gate and asked if we knew of any ancestral vampires hiding in London. She asked about Ascalon. She asked about many things.
Why did she come to you?
I am old Bridget, the buried memory of the city. She sought for silent truths. Truths I have kept hidden for so long.
What do you think of her?
Her soul is good, yet tainted with a deep sadness and the scars of ancient wounds. Time does that to us immortals, for we have so much to dwell upon.
Why do I feel like Lord Redgrave was particularly irritated to see you? Far more so than the average Skull, if I may say.
Because I used to know him quite well, and he is afraid I may remember who he really is.
You're Elizabeth's informant. You're the one who told her about Lord Redgrave's lies regarding his lineage.
Yes, but my words were not meant to hurt or threaten. I simply told the story of the Sewer Skulls, and of so many other forgotten children.
Wait, slow down. I need to ask you something.
I'm listening, but I do not have time to waste, so be quick.
No time to lose, then. I must go there right away.
I shall return to my den. Have you a message for the lady? Should I see her before you?
Even the 6,000 votes or 8,000 votes that they would need out of Georgia in a recount there, let alone what would happen in Arizona. So the point is, when you start to look at this, Samantha, you hold up a note. Would this be a 5-front floor? The point is that that's and by the way, with also cross currents, you got to argue in one place that limit some ballots being counted in certain states because they help the president's case, but then in other states he's going to want to expand the county on that or expand provisionals. I think you've explained it fairly well, but for Joe Biden right now, he is leading in all of the relevant battleground states except for North Carolina. But even if Pennsylvania were to somehow disappear,
Yes.
obviously NBC News does not.
Tell her I love her.
Is this still unknown to her? Go now and take care, young Ekon, for the flames are rising. Go now, young Ekon. You are awaited elsewhere.
And so he's got to somehow overtake all of those. And by the way, I do want to, and this is an important aspect of this story. This is the most likely now electoral vote, final electoral vote between the two, 306-232. 306-232 is what we had 4 years ago, and it sort of reinforces the point that I've been trying to make here, which is the 2016 election was not an outlier. This is a country that is divided along the lines we've been divided on,
Welcome back, Jonathan. Do you need anything?
Show me what you have in stock, please.
Acknowledging the fact that these results in these key battleground states were close, acknowledging that it is going to be up to him now to try to unify what is a deeply divided nation. In terms of the reaction that we're getting from President Trump, I think it bears reminding people and underscoring something that you said, Savannah, which is that this was not a surprise to the Biden campaign. They were prepared for this type of reaction from President Trump. In fact, they put out a statement yesterday, if I could just read that to remind people what their posture is. As we said on July 19th, the American people will decide this election, and the United States government is perfectly capable of escorting trespassers out of the White House. So, to that point, defiance from the Biden campaign, from President-elect Joe Biden, who's clearly not going to be daunted by the comments of President Trump. In terms of those legal battles, the Biden campaign in the days leading up to this historic moment.
Hello, Mr.
Hello, Doctor.
They've called them charades, and they say they have a team of lawyers ready to fight them. So it is significant, though, that we're getting...
How is the sanitary situation in Whitechapel?
We hold on despite the epidemic. Armed patrols have been seen in the vicinity for a few nights, but they stayed away from the dispensary.
How is the sanitary situation in Whitechapel?
We hold on.
How is Nurse Crane these days?
I don't know what you told her, what kind of deal you made, but Dorothea seems less anxious recently. Thank you for that, Dr. Reed.
Tell me everything you know about Camellia, the mute florist.
I do not believe in the afterlife, Doctor, but I'm almost convinced Camellia is an angel. She volunteered to give out our medical leaflets.
Goodbye.
Talking about this Colossus.
Mr.
Evening.
Goodbye.
Having the best country because they didn't want the United States to be like England where all the policies were made by the king. But at the same time, they wanted us to fight over policies, you know, who would be president of the United States, for instance. But at the end of the day,
Come on, we can sort it out, right? Fancy buying something, sir?
How are the current conditions in Whitechapel?
When there's more people outside at night than during the day, then you've got to start to worry.
Right then. Show me what you have.
You again?
Goodbye.
Explain how this is going to work. Transition is so key between two administrations.
Well, it is, Lester, particularly given the pandemic and all the economic challenges, but I'd start by saying Donald Trump might not.
So,
Good evening.
it's far.
I have heard enough for tonight. Goodbye. Good evening.
Shane.
Goodbye.
happy to.
Millions of Americans who will. How should Joe Biden speak to them and address that?
Well, my sense of it is you're going to have everybody from Senate Republicans to Republican governors to even folks on Fox News saying the election's over. Just to go back to the math, this is not a close election this one. Okay, Joe Biden's going to win with a higher percentage.
Good evening.
晚上好。
How do you...
I don't.
You should...
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Good evening.
I'd like to see what...
Good evening.
You look ill.
I have no doubt it.
Well, they...
Thank you.
Goodbye, Miss Swanler. Perhaps we'll talk again.
Underscores that he's likely to do what David was just outlining. This is someone who has had a sort of North Star on his campaign all the way along. I mean, he had so many supporting him in the primary, in the general election. Even his own, sometimes campaign staffers behind the scenes, wondering if whether, you know, if he was making the right decisions. But he stayed true to that, even in the face of that kind of opposition. He kept saying, what's happening on Twitter does not represent what's happening everywhere. The American people want something broader than what's happening, and he ultimately was really clear to that. And everything we know about Joe Biden says he is going to be someone who has a deep, long-standing, decades-long really relationship with Mitch McConnell, who, you know, may be the Republican leader, again, may not be, depending on those two runoffs, but he is someone who, you know, when Obama was president, looking at President Obama, it was Vice President Joe Biden who was cutting deals with members of Congress and working with those relationships. So I think they are about to enter a very different era. And the cabinet question is still an open one, I think, partly because control of the Senate is not determined yet. So the kinds of cabinet nominees that Joe Biden could get through the
piece of shit!
believe I'm doing this.
Other states, and as more votes come in, so it's not even going to be a one-state election.
There'll come a time when world leaders start calling the president
Justin Trudeau, right?
And remember that Donald Trump went to Saudi Arabia. You have to go to Canada or Mexico, which is the tradition, to go to your neighbor. As your first visit.
The weirdest first visit ever. To make Saudi Arabia your first stop.
And Joe Biden remembers 1992 in Little Rock. I was there. And they didn't get the cabinet and the White House staff appointed, nominated until Christmas Eve. It was an extraordinarily drawn-out process. He already knows what he wants. Roll it out. You well know the transition, the Biden transition team is already in place, and those meetings are already going on. They should be going on. Absolutely. And these are the people who have been part of his team, part of his universe, as well as presidential candidates.
Look, by the way, unlike Donald Trump, who couldn't reach back to a previous Republican administration to find people, which is also the struggle he had in his transition, is you had a mainstream, the establishment of the
He wouldn't let the never-Trumpers. He vetoed them.
So, and even this way, putting together a government for Joe Biden, he was in the previous Democratic government himself. So these are already veterans. Look, he's going to bring in new people because I do think you need to have a new generation. And it isn't just about appearance sake to have a new generation. I think it needs to be real. I think, no more of these, these glass ceilings need to be gotten rid of on all of these cabinet votes. So there's no doubt that we're going to see a lot of that stuff shattered. But I think it is also going to be about finding that balance and being responsive.
I do think that there is going to be a significant focus on, Chuck, I think you were suggesting that the diversity of Joe Biden's cabinet. I think that is one thing that Democrats on Capitol Hill, but also across the country, they're looking to see themselves represented.
You probably have a woman defense secretary, Michelle Flournoy.
Possibly the first woman Treasury Secretary, the first woman Defense Secretary, sort of these last sort of, for some reason, relics, if you will, and just that stuff. And by the way, you shatter that stuff, and at the same time, you can still strike your ideological balance. And that's what he's going to have to do. It's not going to be easy. He's going to have to strike this balance, but he does have in the same way Barack Obama was able to strike that balance when he came to his inner crisis. Sort of like, look, you may have your issue that you really want. Come on, you've got to appoint this person the deputy undersecretary of X. You're like, we don't have time for that right now. This time it's a pandemic. We don't have time for the little fights. And I think that also will benefit Joe Biden's ability to get the first cabinet that he wants. Put it that way.
We're showing you images that are coming into our newsroom from around the country, from Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C., Harrisburg in Pennsylvania, those Trump supporters, and we'll continue to monitor those images. Let's go to Kristen Welker. She's at Biden headquarters getting reaction. We mentioned, Kristen, already that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has reached out to Joe Biden, the President-elect. What else are you hearing?
Let me read you what we're hearing from Justin Trudeau, and then let's talk about the broader context of how the world is reacting. Savannah, Justin Trudeau writes, "Congratulations, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Our two countries are close friends, partners, and allies. We share a relationship that's unique on the world stage. I'm really looking forward to working together and building on that with both of you." Well, President Trump was someone who ran on an America First foreign policy, and that is how he governed. And so some of America's traditional relationships with its foreign allies have been strained throughout the Trump administration, something that he would acknowledge and felt quite proud of. Frankly, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal.
I have this thirst for blood.
Negotiate a better Iran nuclear deal. But just to give you a sense, and think about NATO. President Trump had a number of NATO summits which were quite tense at times. You recall that one moment where you had several world leaders who were talking about the president behind his back, mocking him. That was caught on camera.
What is this truck? Are the vampire hunters here already?
This is no arena of democracy. As fast as we move, democracy is working. Once again, that it is our voices that count. White City individuals understood with water how incredible this is. We only get one shot at making the first.
Those bastards. What have they done to Edgar? McCullum and his thugs are taking the credit for Edgar's abduction. They really mean business. Looks like he's wounded. I better follow the blood.
Ultraviolet curtains and Ori counting powder. Dr. Swansea's always been a resourceful bastard. I bet he never told you he had this installed in case of a vampire attack. Says a lot about how much he trusts you.
What have you done with Edgar?
Don't worry. We don't kill humans. Even if your friend is deserving of a little punishment for what he did.
What are you talking about?
We know everything. Swansea and you created this bloody epidemic. You aim to unleash another disaster, just like William Marshall did.
No! I'm trying to put an end to it, just like you are.
You're the progeny, aren't you? Where is the monster hiding? It's still in England, isn't it?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Jeffrey, please listen to me.
No tricks. That shit won't work on me. We've found proof in the theater. Doris Fletcher was your first experiment. Now where is Marshall? Speak! So much for modern technology. Time for the tried and true. Do you know what this is, Beast? This is a drop of King Arthur's blood. The blood of a true defender of Britain. Stronger than your evil powers.
This is ridiculous. We're losing precious time.
True enough. Soon I'll bring your head before your coward of a father. Their poisonous bite is useless on me. If you're so innocent... Freeman prevails! Close your eyes! This is gonna hurt. Come on, Reed. Try something else.
It seems by his emotions and has been into the chaos.
What the fuck?
A lot of support. There were a lot of Americans who voted for him here, but I'm not sure that there's going to be sustained support for that. And just to pick up on what Andrea was saying, I've been watching all of this, and you think about what got Joe Biden into this race, and how everyone in Washington has looked at this president. He has said repeatedly that the events in Charlottesville and the president's unwillingness to be very clear on matters of race are what got him into this in the beginning, that he was something of a reluctant candidate, that his son Beau should have been the one who was running here. I mean, he has been trying, as Andrea said, to find his way into this office for decades, and that the relationships that he did build through the roles that he had in the Senate, I think, are going to drive us quick.
There's a mandate. There is a mandate here, and there's going to be a fight about what it is, but I'll tell you what the American people's mandate is.
Your poisonous bite is useless on me. Freewood prevails! Come on, Reed. Try something else.
True light will cleanse you.
Show some style. Fight like a man. Take you down!
What the fuck?
This could be the state that could be make or break for him, and so it was, and so it is, and that is why on the final day of this campaign he visited Scranton, the place where he was born. He visited Philadelphia to encourage African American voters to turn out in force. They didn't in big enough numbers in 2016, and so we wait for a reaction from the Biden campaign on what is undoubtedly a day of
He had other paths to get to that Pennsylvania, put him over the top. Talk about there's so much history in all this. Kamala Harris to become the first woman of color as vice president of the United States.
It's an historic day for that reason as well. Senator Kamala Harris becoming the first black woman to serve as vice president.
Your poisonous bite is useless on me. Come on, Reed. Try something else.
Of course, has been covering politics. Andrea, it's going back to the 80s. There have been female vice presidential candidates. Never has there been a female vice president. And if the first
covered Hillary Clinton for decades, as I did, running for president, but to see the first woman vice president and the first person of color, the first woman of color, as Kristen was just saying, it is overwhelming in a way to think of the barriers that have been broken, not only the glass ceiling, but in an era of such racial reckoning in the United States, to have a person of color in the vice presidency. Having watched Walter Mondale, the first
Freeman
vice
prevails! I'll pin you down! Show some style. Fight like a man. Your poisonous bite is useless on me. Come on, Reed. Try something else. Take you down! Close your eyes! This is gonna hurt. Freeman prevails!
She's there to sort of keep the progressives and sort of, the outside activists also partnership. It's going to be interesting. If it's effective, that's what it'll look like. If it's ineffective, then
She's also a bridge to a new generation, I think, inside the Republican Party. You think of the arc of history that Joe Biden has seen in his political career, but we are, in fact, moving potentially forward, and he needs someone to do that.
So let's find out what the Trump White House is saying this morning about Hallie Jackson on duty. I was just glancing at the popular vote. Yes, NBC News has projected that Joe Biden has won the election, but 70 million Americans voted for Donald Trump, 74 million approximately for Joe Biden. Where is the White House on this call, and where is the president right now?
Physically, Savannah, he is not here at the White House. President Trump, right now, as this race is being called by NBC News, is at his golf course in Virginia. This is not the rebuke of Trumpism that some of the president's critics had hoped, but it is a defeat for the president, and it is one that over the last 24 hours, aides, advisors, and other sources that I've talked to have come to a realization about. I believe you're looking at some video of the president in the motorcade on the way to that golf course earlier today. The president, even as recently as within the
Show
last
some
hour,
style. Fight like a True light will cleanse you. Your poisonous bite is useless on me. Prevail!
In fact, as we speak, up in Philadelphia, there's set to be a news conference with some of the president's top advisors, Rudy Giuliani, Corey Lewandowski, Pam Bondi, about the legal push that they're mounting in that state. It looks like an uphill climb. The campaign so far has presented no evidence to back up any of its claims, not just to the news media, but to judges who have dismissed these cases in other states like Georgia and Michigan. This is a blow, obviously, for President Trump. It is a reality that he is going to need to face. I was told at about 10 o'clock last night by a couple of folks close to the president that he understood that he saw the writing on the wall, the writing that is now on the wall this morning here on NBC News as we've called this race. The question is, what happens next? I understand that he has no plans to concede until the recounts, the canvassing, the certification process has been finished in these battles.
Come on, Reed. Show some style. Fight like a man. I'll take you down. I know. It hurts, doesn't it? Your poisonous bite is useless on me. If you're so innocent, why does simple light burn you so much?
Fucking hell.
They're willing to give the president a little bit of time to prove it, but it's not going to last forever, and they're going to be ready to say, okay, we're ready to accept these results.
Keep an eye. Reports of celebrations in the streets here in New York, obviously a heavily blue city. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I think we've got some pictures of supporters. I think that's the White House there is what you're looking at.
Just keep an eye on Republican elected officials today who do congratulate Joe Biden, who reach out. I would be surprised if Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden talk today before Joe Biden and Donald Trump talk.
We'll just show with you various scenes. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Trump supporters, a spontaneous reaction there. We've seen it outside the White House. We're seeing people running into the streets